Welcome back to Figs Talks Fights. I'm Brian Figueredo. Today we're going to get into the conclusion of the saga of Daniel DC Cormier versus Stipe Miocic. The trilogy takes place in just a matter of within 10 hours now. These guys are going to fight for the last time to see who is the best of the two of them. We're calling it, is this the fight for the heavyweight GOAT? We'll get into that. Maybe actually the fight for the GOAT heavyweight in the UFC, but let's talk about their first two fights and how they match up. Now look, we'll make it quick. Pretty sure you have to know by now, DC won the first fight by knockout, coming up from being the light heavyweight champion to be one of those prestige double champs at the time. All right. It was a first round KO for DC. They rematched just last, I believe, August. So it was about a year ago where these guys had their second fight. Look, DC put it on Stipe, but Stipe rallied back to get the TKO win in the fourth round. What the hell is going to happen tonight? Who the hell knows? But let's take a look at some things that happened in previous fights. So if you go back to their first fight that took place in July of 2018, it was a headliner for the International Fight Week, of 2018. They were coming off from hosting what was the second last season of The Ultimate Fighter, okay? It was a surprising fight for me, all right? Coming into this fight, I mean, yes, DC was previously undefeated at heavyweight, okay, coming up from Strikeforce, entering as an alternate in the Strikeforce heavyweight tournament, or the heavyweight Grand Prix tournament, okay, taking on Bigfoot Silva. And this is when Bigfoot Silva just TKO'd Fedor Emelianenko, and Fedor Emelianenko still had a ton of an aura behind him at that time, okay? And Bigfoot Silva just put it on him. Well, DC made really quick work of Antonio Bigfoot Silva in that fight, defeating Josh Barnett in the finals. Okay, then coming into the UFC, taking on Roy Nelson and Frank Mir at heavyweight, and then making his run at light heavyweight. So his first fight back into it, I was a little bit shocked at the forward pressure that Stipe was able to put on Daniel Cormier in their first fight, as well as some of the control work against the fence. You can tell DC is a pretty straightforward bread and butter, likes to walk you down, boxing, throwing inside and outside leg kicks to get his range. He does a lot of reaching out. I mean, he's only 5'10", 5'11", fighting at heavyweight. No, he's a big stack boy, but as far as height and reach, not the greatest or the largest size guy at heavyweight, so that's part of his game. Well, he was uncomfortable within 30 seconds of this fight because Stipe just kept the forward pressure, kept him on range, kept him at the end of the jab. Anytime DC wanted to move forward, he kept clinching him up against the fence. But that's where you saw DC was just looking for a big underhook on the right side and to break off the clinch and throw an overhand right or a hook, breaking it off, and eventually caught Stipe, I believe, with only like 30 seconds left in the first round, puts him on his ass, couple of follow-up blows on the ground, it's all over. Now, coming back into their rematch, okay, I thought this was a very, very interesting fight because, I mean, I thought Stipe did a hell of a lot better of a job defending the wrestling in their first matchup than I thought he was going to, all right? So DC had other plans. Now, when these guys come out, they're starting to box. It's a little bit of the same thing. You see Stipe utilizing leg kicks a little bit more in the second fight. Okay, Daniel Cormier still doing this, still looking to reach and find his range, all right? Eventually gets a low single shot on Stipe about halfway through or a minute or so into the first round. And Stipe, I mean, he does not get enough credit on his wrestling and his wrestling defense, okay? When Daniel Cormier gets into a low single, and I mean, he's got a gable grip, he's got his head right on Stipe's hip right here, and he's trying to just suck him underneath. What DC's goal here is to actually turn the pipe and have, okay, run the pipe, along this way, so he has the low single, and just turn the corner and put Stipe's back actually behind him here. It's not like a straight blast double where you shoot forward, maybe turn it a little bit and put him on their back. No, he's got a little bit more trickery into it. Well, look, Stipe was very wise of this. So when Daniel Cormier went to try to go turn the corner, okay, this way, Stipe started sprawling and bouncing away the opposite direction, forcing Cormier to try to turn the direction this way. Couldn't get a knee pick behind the shot, so eventually turns around and goes back to the original direction he was at. But Stipe is great at this whole time, just getting one hook underneath Cormier, grabbing for his neck, and then pushing his head down at the same time. Now, if you can imagine that, when you're on a low single, if someone's got you from here and pushing you down at the same time, you do not have enough leverage, okay, to just whip them out underneath you and get their ass to the ground. This is where Cormier is high level and extremely smart. Well, with Stipe putting his weight on top of Cormier to make sure that he's pushing him down here at this point, okay, and still trying to get him with an underhook here, just completely trying to disrupt his shot. DC kicks his left leg behind him, like literally kicks it out like that, so that he gets balanced on one foot in pretty much one-legged squat. As soon as his leg comes out back here, okay, it's all leverage. Stipe falls on top of Cormier's back, and that's at the point where Cormier sets up the slam. So now that he's put his foot out, caught Stipe underneath him like this, he can now lift and get him on top, walks towards the center of the cage because he doesn't want Stipe to use the fence to get up, and slams him down and controls him there for at least a couple of minutes, okay? Hope I explained that well, but I mean, this was high-level shit. It took me a few times to watch it to be like, well, hold on, how the hell is he doing this? Just those tiny little things with just a kick out, you know, kind of like a bull kicking back out. Amazing work by Cormier. Hope to see some of that tonight. But other than that, I mean, towards the first round, Stipe, or at the end, towards the end of the first round, Stipe finds his way back up to his feet, and then comes the second round, and this is where Stipe starts to put in some work and dividends that will eventually pay off. Now, I know the body shots are eventually what ends their second fight in the fourth round, okay? Stipe starts just finding a nice home to just change levels as every time Cormier's throwing something with his right, okay, Stipe would always dip from here and just dig right in the body, just right out of the range for Cormier to counter there. And he kept digging into it. But if you notice in the second round of this fight, every time Cormier starts reaching and he's trying to get on the inside, okay, and I know people talk about the eye pokes with Cormier. Look, as I explained before, he is a shorter guy at heavyweight. He's trying to grip and grab somebody. He's not actually trying to poke him in the eye. Shit's going to happen. You're moving around. It's a fight. Things are going to happen. But I do not think DC's a dirty fighter from this. But anyhow, every time he would do that, Stipe would just lean in and just throw one knee right to the body of Cormier. And that eventually paid dividends. Now, they had a great boxing exchanges back and forth. Okay, I found that Stipe was a little bit more vulnerable from the left hooks of Cormier. He was far more wise to a right hand coming over the top from their first fight. And then you start to see him getting a little bit busted up from left hooks on the right side of his face. So look for Stipe to actually be trying to defend that side as well. Probably keep his hand up a little higher in the exchanges, okay? Or at least throw in some sort of an elbow up when Cormier comes in close to not let him get that wrist control, all right? But anyhow, good boxing exchanges back and forth, and then eventually, as we all know, in the fourth round, starts breaking down that body of Daniel Cormier, and it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just the shots in that fourth round. It was the shots that he was putting forward in the second round and then the third round with knees, okay? And especially when Cormier's reaching like this, you wouldn't want to throw a knee against a guy like Cormier when you are going for forward pressure, because that's going to give Cormier your own momentum to just grab that single leg again and try to suck you out from underneath, right? Not a chance. Stipe was very wise to find these openings, and I expect to see it again tonight. Now, as far as how they're going to match up in this third round, I don't want to make a prediction because coming into the first fight, I thought Stipe had it. especially coming off that win over Ngannou, a beating he put on Francis Ngannou. Okay? No one's even been able to hurt Francis Ngannou. And Stipe put a beating on him. And then Cormier coming in just a year prior, losing to John Jones when John Jones was on Turinabol, Dick Pill stuff, whatever the hell it was. Who cares? And then after that, getting his title back from Jones being stripped, and then taking on Volkov, Uzdemir after that. Look, I just thought Stipe was going to be too much. Wrong. Second fight comes up. I thought DC's going to have it. He's going to mix way more wrestling in, and he's in Stipe's head. Wrong. So who do I think's going to win tonight? Fuck, I'm going to just predict a draw. I don't do predictions, but I'm going to predict a draw because I get it wrong every effing time with these guys. So the things to look out for both these guys, who do I think is going to win, is actually who puts the forward pressure together the best. Both these guys, when they're moving forward, they're fierce. And both these guys, when they're on the back foot, I mean, outside of Stipe's win over Verdum, where Verdum just got stupid and just started chasing him with wild shots, throwing arm punches around the ring. And then eventually Stipe just catches him with a nice straight right when he turned the corner on him. But anyhow, nonetheless, I think when Stipe is going to be moving forward, Cormier's really sneaky and he's very light on his feet, especially for a heavy guy. All right, Cormier is thick right now. Thick. But he is good at just bouncing on that one toe, poof, and then throwing a leg kick. Anytime Stipe comes forward, he needs to keep doing that. He actually buckled Stipe in the second fight, okay? Just from one of those leg kicks, just made his leg twist inwards. You can't see my leg here, but like his knee buckled in on the inside, okay? And sent him a little off balance. And Stipe needs to be working those knees. Every time Cormier is reaching out like this, trying to grab wrist control, confuse you, throw a shot over the top, sneak in a jab or whatever it is, Stipe's just got to keep throwing those knees in. Cormier's going to be waiting for those body shots. He's been working with Mark Henry. He's claiming he's got answers to it. And if he's working with a guy with Mark Henry, you better effing believe he's going to have some answers for that shot. But I mean, it is a fight. And all it takes is a zig will a zag. You get somebody looking here. You can pop those shots in. All right. Other than that, like I said, Stipe in the last fight, he had far more vulnerability on the left side, taking left hooks from Cormier more than like making sure he's conscious of any damage coming from a big right from Daniel Cormier. Not saying that Cormier didn't get off on the right side, but it was just a hell of a lot easier for him to smack him with one of his left on Stipe's actual right. Cormier showed a little bit more vulnerability when he got hurt and tired to take shots from the right. He kept his hands a little bit too low. I'd like to see Cormier just try to keep it in nice, tight boxing stance when he's moving forward. Plus, I'm not sure who is reffing the fight tonight. Okay, I forget who it is off the top of my head. I'm hoping it's Jason Herzog because of all the great refs right now. I mean, he's been on a great streak, and you can tell he really, really gives a shit about his job, and he wants to take on, the hierarchy of the refs these days. So, anyhow, getting on to the point, though, the ref is more than likely going to be watching Daniel Cormier's hands reaching out like that and telling him to make more closed fists. If I was Stipe, I mean, he got poked in the first fight, poked in the second fight. I don't think it was on purpose, but nonetheless, you're still taking fingers and thumbs to the eyes. I would be all over that saying, hey, ref, come on. You're there to protect us. Protect my fucking eyes, for God's sakes, right? So, that's something else I'd look for. Like I said, I'm not going to make a pick, but the last thing I'll get on with this fight is the GOAT status thing. Look, this is tough to call because if you saw Fedor back in the day, I mean, Fedor's run from year 2000 up until, late June of 2009, he was absolutely unstoppable. Did he have some give-me fights in between here and there? Yes, of course. We know the whole story. If you didn't, I suggest you get Fight Pass. Watch the career of Fedor Emelianenko. I mean, that fight he had with Crow Cop in 2005, beating Nogueira not just once, twice, three times. The way he just threw Andre Arlovski backwards in the air with an overhand right in affliction. I mean, even when Brett Rogers, the guy that changed tires at freaking Sam's Club, was big boy putting it on Fedor. Fedor just always found a way to win. I don't know if these guys have developed a legacy like that. And I don't want to count out Cain Velasquez as well. I mean, Cain Velasquez, if he just stayed away from injuries, I would personally say he was the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time, okay? You got to give respect to the guys back in the day, even like some of the Josh Barnett's of the world, or even Randy Couture. Randy Couture is highly underappreciated. Mainly he's more known for his trilogy, his own trilogy with Chuck Liddell, which kind of reminds me of the Cormier Stipe trilogy. Couture has to be considered in that conversation. But as far as UFC accolades, especially if Stipe wins tonight, because he'll have the most title wins in UFC heavyweight history tonight. He already has the record for 3 title defenses in a row. It's how tough it is to get off at heavyweight. Just those 4-ounce gloves, 3 title defenses in a row is a record. Okay? Even though it's a shallow division, I mean, the room for error is lack thereof. So, either way, good luck to both these competitors. I'm a fan of both of them. I can't wait for the fight. I hope you enjoyed the content here today. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up. All that good shit. Enjoy the fights tonight, okay? It's a great card. Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera. Did a quick video on that the other day. Check it out. And you got Junior Dos Santos versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Whew. Hell of a competition. Personally, I think if JDS is, we're going to find out whether he's washed or not tonight. And if he is not, I mean, if JDS is anything to the form of the guy that was putting people away from 2008 to 2012, this is his fight to lose. So, anyhow, thanks again for sticking around. We'll see you next time. Until then,